Buck Ruxton entered the world in Bombay, British India on March 21, 1899. Supported by his parents, he pursued his education at the University of Bombay, earning his Bachelor of Medicine in 1922, followed by his Bachelor of Surgery a year later. Assisted financially by both his family and the Bombay Medical Service, Ruxton ventured to Britain in 1926. Initially enrolling in medical courses at London's University College Hospital under the alias Gabriel Hakim, he later transitioned to Edinburgh in 1927 to pursue studies for a fellowship of the Royal Colleges of Surgeons. During his pursuit of surgical expertise in Edinburgh, Ruxton crossed paths with Isabella Van S., a 26-year-old woman who managed a cafe in the city. Isabella, although still legally wed to a Dutchman from a short-lived marriage in 1919, was known by her maiden name, Kerr. Their relationship blossomed, and Isabella accompanied Ruxton to England in 1928. The following year, Isabella gave birth to their first child, a daughter named Elizabeth. In 1930, the Ruxtons made the transition from London to Lancaster, where Ruxton set up his medical practice within their family residence at 2 Dalton Square. Determined to integrate into British society, Ruxton swiftly gained recognition among his patients as a dedicated and empathetic general practitioner, earning admiration and popularity within the local community. Notably, he demonstrated his compassion by occasionally waiving treatment fees for patients facing financial hardships. The following year welcomed the arrival of a second daughter, Diane, while 1933 brought the birth of a son, William, to the Ruxton family. At the same time, they engaged the services of Mary Jane Rogerson, a young maid and live-in housekeeper, primarily to assist with childcare duties. Despite enjoying a respected standing within the Lancaster community, the relationship between Buck and Isabella Ruxton was tumultuous. Buck's growing suspicion of Isabella's alleged infidelity led to explosive outbursts of rage or tearful episodes behind closed doors. Their disagreements often prompted Isabella to temporarily leave for Edinburgh with their children. However, Buck's heartfelt pleas would persuade her to return, with Isabella often expressing regret for their conflicts upon her return. The precise onset of Buck's accusations of adultery and alleged assaults against Isabella is unclear, but their loud quarrels frequently attracted police attention, leading to interventions and visits to the Lancaster police station. During these encounters, Buck's behavior oscillated between erratic speech and tearful displays. Moreover, Isabella's suicide attempt by inert gas asphyxiation in 1932, following one of their disputes, resulted in a miscarriage, further adding to the strain on their relationship. In 1933, Isabella lodged a complaint with the police alleging that her husband had physically assaulted her. When authorities visited Ruxton's practice to investigate, he refuted the claim, accusing Isabella of infidelity instead. Despite this confrontation, Isabella returned to him within a day. Another incident occurred in April of 1934 when a Lancaster policeman responded to a domestic dispute at the Ruxton residence. Upon arrival, Ruxton expressed a disturbing sentiment to the officer, stating, "Sergeant, I feel like murdering 2 persons. My wife is going out to meet a man." In early September of 1935, Isabella traveled to Edinburgh to visit her sister, accompanied by the prominent Edmondson family from Lancaster, who were close acquaintances of the Ruxtons. Buck opted to stay in Lancaster to tend to his medical practice. Later, he admitted to investigators his suspicion that Isabella was having an affair with Robert Edmondson, a young man associated with the local town hall, based on her occasional social interactions with him. Hotel records later confirmed that each adult had booked separate rooms during their stay in Edinburgh. On the evening of September 14, 1935, Isabella Ruxton left her family home to enjoy the Blackpool illuminations and visit her sisters nearby. She returned home around 11:30 p.m. Upon her arrival, Buck Ruxton's jealousy and paranoia appeared to consume him. It's likely he strangled Isabella, rendering her unconscious or causing her death, before proceeding to beat and stab her. To either silence their housemaid, who may have witnessed the act, or to prevent her from discovering the crime, Ruxton brutally attacked Mary Jane Rogerson, possibly strangling or asphyxiating her, and then stabbing her. The extensive bloodstains found throughout the Ruxton household suggested significant bleeding occurred before or during the murders, indicating that Ruxton inflicted multiple stab wounds on one or both victims either shortly before or after death. On the day prior to the murders, Ruxton instructed their charwomen not to clean the premises until Monday, September 16th. After sending his children to stay with a dentist friend, he returned home and dismembered and mutilated the bodies in the bathroom to conceal their identities. Later, around 4:30 p.m., he visited a patient, Mrs. Hampshire, and persuaded her and her husband to return to Dalton Square under the pretext of preparing for decorators scheduled to arrive the next morning. Upon arriving at Dalton Square, Mrs. Hampshire found the house in disarray, with carpeting removed from the stairs, straw scattered on the floors, and a locked bedroom door. In the waiting room, she discovered rolled-up sections of carpeting, stair pads, and a stained suit. Additionally, she found 2 sections of carpeting and burned towels in the garden. Before leaving, the Hampshires were given stained stair carpeting and Ruxton's suit to clean. On the morning of September 29, 1935, Susan Haynes Johnson noticed something unusual as she peered over the parapet of an old stone bridge situated 2 miles north of Moffat, Dumfriesshire. Below, by the banks of the stream called Gardenholm Lynn, she spotted a bundle wrapped in fabric wedged against a boulder, revealing a partially decomposed human arm protruding from within. Police from the Dumfriesshire Constabulary swiftly responded to the scene. Upon confirming the human nature of the remains, officers conducted a thorough search of the stream, surrounding ravines, and the nearby Annan River. Their search yielded grim discoveries, including 2 human heads and 4 additional bundles containing extensively mutilated human remains such as thigh bones, legs, sections of flesh, a torso, and pelvis. These remains, wrapped in bedsheets, a pillowcase, children's clothing, and various newspapers, were in an advanced state of decomposition. On October 1st, forensic scientist John Glaister, Jr. and Dr. Gilbert Miller examined the remains at Moffat Mortuary. Their analysis revealed that the 70 separate sections of human remains belonged to 2 females of different heights and ages. The meticulous mutilation carried out with a surgical knife suggested the perpetrator possessed detailed anatomical knowledge, deliberately complicating identification efforts. In addition to removing eyes, ears, skin, lips, soft tissue, and several teeth to thwart dental identification or composite drawings, the perpetrator also removed fingertips and extensively stripped flesh from limbs, rendering traditional identification methods impossible. The close proximity of Gardenholm Lynn Stream to a major road caught the attention of detectives from Glasgow CID. Considering that the remains were unlikely to belong to local individuals, they began exploring the possibility that the perpetrator had traveled to the southern uplands specifically to dispose of the remains. The notion arose that the perpetrator might have been unfamiliar with the area. The 2 bodies were transferred to the anatomy department of the University of Edinburgh for examination. There, they underwent treatment with ether to halt further decomposition and eliminate any maggot infestation. Shortly after the bodies arrived at the University of Edinburgh, another bundle containing human remains was discovered. This bundle contained 2 human forearms, complete with attached hands. Remarkably, fingerprints were still discernible on the hands, enabling investigators to obtain a complete set of prints. To estimate the time of death, Dumfriesshire police sought the expertise of Glasgow-based entomologist Alexander Mearns. Based on examination of skull structures, Glaister and Smith determined that one victim was a woman aged approximately 30 to 55, likely between 35 and 45, while the second victim was aged between 18 and 25, probably around 20 to 21 at the time of her murder. The older woman showed evidence of 5 stab wounds to the chest, broken bones, bruises, congested lungs, and a fractured hyoid bone, indicating strangulation before other injuries. The second victim displayed signs of extensive blunt force trauma to the limbs and head, suggesting a severe beating with an unknown object. Professors Glaister, Brash, and Smith estimated that the mutilation of the bodies would have taken approximately 8 hours and noted that both had been drained of blood and viscera prior to dismemberment. Several pages of the Sunday Graphic, used to wrap the remains, were identified as a souvenir edition circulated exclusively in the Morecambe and Lancaster area of England on September 15th. This strongly suggested that the victims and/or their killer resided in northwest England. Inspector Jeremiah Lynch of Scotland Yard, aiding the investigation at the Chief Constable of Dumfrieshire's request, directed his focus on recent missing persons reports from the region filed on or shortly after September 15th. 5 days before the gruesome discovery in Moffat, Ruxton visited Lancaster police, claiming his wife had left him once again. Earlier, he had visited the Morecambe home of Mary Jane Rogerson's parents, alleging that their daughter, after engaging in an affair, had become pregnant, and his wife had agreed to discreetly arrange an abortion. Aware that abortions were illegal, Ruxton urged the Rogersons not to involve the authorities. On October 1st, the Rogersons visited Ruxton at his practice, where he tried to allay their concerns by alleging that both his wife and Mary Jane had stolen £30 from his safe before fleeing. Despite his reassurances, the Rogersons became suspicious due to Ruxton's conflicting explanations and filed a missing persons report with Morecambe police the next day. Ruxton himself did not formally report his wife and maid as missing to the Lancaster police until October 4th. On October 9th, Scottish police visited the Rogerson household and presented Mary Jane's parents with clothing sections used to wrap the bodies. Mrs. Rogerson immediately recognized a blouse with distinctive patchwork repairs under one armpit as belonging to her daughter, last seen on September 14th. Though she couldn't identify a pair of child's rompers, she suggested showing them to her friend, Edith Holm, in Grange-over-Sands. Mrs. Holm confirmed that the rompers were ones that she had purchased for the Ruxton children the previous summer. Meanwhile, the Chief Constable of Dumfriesshire learned from his Lancaster counterpart that Ruxton had informally reported his wife missing a month earlier. The last confirmed sighting of Isabella alive, aside from Ruxton's claims, were on September 14th when she left her sisters in Blackpool to return home. On the same day, Ruxton made another visit to Lancaster police. Overwhelmed with emotion, he expressed concern about local rumors linking the human remains in Scotland to his wife and maid. He requested discreet inquiries to locate them, and insisted on a search of his house to dispel the rumors. Though officers calmed him before taking him home, he became the prime suspect in the eyes of law enforcement involved in the investigation. Lancaster police spoke with one of Ruxton's charladies, Agnes Oxley, who revealed that on September 15th, Ruxton had instructed her not to work on his premises until the following day. When she arrived at 2 Dalton Square the next day, she found the house in disarray, with carpets removed, burned fabric-like material in the garden, and the bathtub heavily stained. Ruxton, with a bandaged hand, requested she clean the tub, explaining he had injured himself jamming it in a door. Further inquiries with neighbors revealed that Ruxton had asked the Hampshires to thoroughly clean his house for redecoration, citing a hand injury from opening a tin of fruit. He also gave them stained carpets and a suit, permitting them to keep them if cleaned. On the evening of October 12th, Ruxton was arrested by Lancaster police and subjected to extensive questioning throughout the night. When pressed to explain his whereabouts between September 14th and 29th, Ruxton presented a handwritten document titled My Movements to investigators. He then voluntarily provided a statement based on this document and participated in the interview. During the interrogation, Ruxton denied ever traveling to Scotland after establishing his practice in Lancaster. However, he struggled to account for why his car registration number had been recorded by a cyclist he had collided with in Kendal on September 17th. Ruxton also failed to explain the extensive bloodstains found in his home during a police search the previous day, despite evidence of recent cleaning and redecoration. Furthermore, he could not account for traces of human fat and tissue discovered in the drains, particularly in the section leading from the bathroom. In the early hours of October 13th, it was confirmed that the finger and palm prints on the second set of human hands matched those of Mary Jane Rogerson. Upon learning of this forensic match, Ruxton was formally charged with her murder at 7:20 a.m. In response, he vehemently denied the accusation, questioning the motive and professing innocence. On November 5th, Ruxton faced an additional charge for the murder of his wife, whose remains were positively identified using forensic anthropology techniques. On March 2, 1936, Buck Ruxton's trial commenced at the Manchester High Court of Justice, presided over by Mr. Justice Singleton. Charged with the murder of Isabella Ruxton, Ruxton formally pleaded not guilty to the charge of murder. Following his plea, a jury was selected and sworn in for duty. The prosecution team, comprising of Joseph Jackson, David Fife, and Hartley Shawcross, argued that Ruxton, driven by jealousy and paranoia, had committed the murders of Isabella Ruxton and Mary Jane Rogerson in the family home. They alleged that he then disposed of their bodies 100 miles away from Lancaster in the Gardenholm Lynn stream in the southern uplands of Scotland. Ruxton's defense counsel, led by Norman Burkett, with assistance from Philip Kershaw, based their defense on the argument that the bodies had been misidentified. They contended that the two bodies were not those of Isabella Ruxton and Mary Jane Rogerson, but of unidentified individuals, casting doubt on the validity of the evidence presented to the jury. The prosecution presented a lineup of witnesses to bolster their case. Each witness meticulously detailed their findings in court, demonstrating the same care and thoroughness that led to their conclusions. Following their testimonies, they faced an examination from a combination of Jackson, Shawcross, and Fife, and were then rigorously cross-examined by Burkett and Kershaw. The only witness to testify in favor of the defense was Ruxton himself, who took the stand on the 9th day of the trial, following the advice of his defense counsel. However, his performance on the stand was less than stellar. He often broke into bouts of hysterical sobbing, clutching a silk handkerchief, and fervently claiming that he had last seen his wife when she accompanied Mary Jane Robertson to Edinburgh to arrange an abortion discreetly. Despite these admissions, Ruxton insisted that both women would be found alive, expressing disbelief at the identification of the bodies and lamenting the devastation of his once happy home. He vehemently denied the earlier testimony of prosecution witnesses, accusing them of lying or being mistaken. The trial of Buck Ruxton spanned 11 days, dominated by testimonies from eyewitnesses and medical and forensic experts aligned with the prosecution. After the closing arguments and Judge Singleton's final instructions, the jury withdrew to deliberate on their verdict. They spent just over 1 hour before returning with a verdict of guilty against Ruxton. As a result, Mr. Justice Singleton sentenced Ruxton to death. When given the opportunity to speak, Ruxton simply expressed his remorse, stating, "I am very sorry," and thanked the court for its fairness and patience during the trial. Despite a petition from Lancaster residents, which gathered over 10,000 signatures, urging clemency for Ruxton, he was hanged at H.M. Prison, Manchester, on the morning of May 12, 1936, with Albert Pierpoint serving as executioner. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to join our community. We upload every Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m. For more content like this, be sure to check out our other videos on the channel. You can also follow us on our other social media platforms for uploads and updates. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.